Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 6th. We'll call the meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilman Byrd.
Everyone stand, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Have a motion on the minutes? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. We have no special presentations this evening. So let's, Madam Clerk, go right to ordinances on final read, please.
An ordinance amending chapter. Can you all hear me?
Can we check the clerk's mic, please?
Testing.
I think you're okay. Try it again.
Testing.
You're okay. Go ahead.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 24 to add a new Section 2450 entitled Prohibited Use of Handheld Mobile Telephone in Marked School Zone.
Councilman Henderson?
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 24 to add a new Section 2451 entitled Prohibited Use of Mobile Telephone with Hands-Free Device by Persons Under 18.
All right. Councilman Henderson?
This did pass on first reading as well. Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. All right. Got that? Okay. When ready, let's move on to transportation. Item C, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the 1200 block of East 28th Street to allow for site modifications to improve public safety as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
It's a pleasure of the council. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. We have no ordinances on first read, which takes us to resolutions. We've got 4 short-term vacation rental. So, Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and go with 7A, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00005 for property located at 4618 Tennessee Avenue.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? There is. Councilman Oglesby, what would you like done? You want a presentation? All right. Well, we'll just have the applicant come up. Will the applicant please come up to the mic? Just give us your name, and you have as long as, to the mic here at the mic stand. You have as long as 7 minutes just to explain what it is that you're asking for and why you're asking it, and then we will allow opposition the same opportunity.
We're just asking, my name is Pat Hanksteffer, and we own the Airbnb at 4618 Tennessee Avenue. We're just asking for approval to go through. We're seeking to do everything that the city and the county requires. We have all our business license for the city and county. Let's see. I'm not sure what else. We've got some notes. We've done inspections and we meet the codes, and we've rewired the whole house and replumbed the whole house. So as far as the Airbnb, we've been operating, and daughter-in-law manages all the guests.
Ms. Hankstein, you're just presenting to the council.
Okay, good deal. And so our daughter-in-law here handles all the guests, and she checks them in and out. We have 5-star ratings on all of our guests that come. What do they call us? One of the top in the Airbnb. And so we're also with VRBO. So our husband helps and my daughter helps. We would do the finances, the bookkeeping, we keep accountants. We try everything in the hardest way to do all that's required. Let's see, we keep care of the pest control. We do monthly pests, and I don't know what else. The trash is taken out. The yard's in immaculate condition. The house has been brought up to higher standards since we purchased it. And we love what we're doing. We're doing it, you can see our gray hair, we're doing it for our retirement. Right now, we're really, honestly, not making any money, but the taxes and everything, but we future hope to. So a lot of it's going to the taxes and the maintenances. We do employ people in the neighborhood, so that's a lot of fun. We've checked with a lot of the neighbors, and we have good rapport with the neighbors there. They love it. Several of them have tried to stay in that Airbnb, but they say it's always booked when they want their families to come. We had that letter that was really not about us, but it was more about what are the requirements that the city has in place. And so we went to his house several times, couldn't find him home, and we printed out all the information that the city has so we could take it and explain it to the fella. So we're just trying our hardest to do all that we need to. We do require, we look for guests that have great ratings. We would say no parties, no smoking. We don't let them smoke inside or outside. Our insurance doesn't allow that. Let's see. We really love to take care of our property, and we care more about that than we do about making a quick buck. We want it to be long-term for us. We have tree people and yard people. We just spend a lot of money taking care of the place. We talked to our next door neighbor. We asked him to write a letter, but he simply said, you can take my name and phone number and tell them to call us. But he said he loves watching the kids play in the yard. We provide games for kids, books for adults. We just do our best. It's a pretty place. So we've got people who come repeatedly over and over. And we just seek to keep all the requirements and restrictions that are necessary. So that's about all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Opposition to this request, if you wouldn't mind? You have an opportunity as well. Ms. Hangsteffer, if you just want to have a seat, and I'll come right back to you for a rebuttal.
Thank you so much for allowing us to speak. First, I want to make sure that
Can you
everyone
give us your
knows.
Can you give us your name?
Oh, yeah,
ma'am?
sure. My name's Sarah McIntyre.
Okay.
I am a resident of St. Elmo, and I want everyone to know that this is a general opposition. It's not a personal opposition. It has nothing to do with this lovely couple and their home necessarily. It's more about short-term vacation rentals and the impacts that they have on our communities and our neighborhoods. Me and other folk in our neighborhoods are advocating for owner-occupied short-term vacation rentals because it means that there's a person still in the building to watch over and seek and is a responsible party. It also means that we have a neighbor there that we can turn to and we can talk to if anything comes up. Short-term vacation rentals are becoming more and more popular. I myself have enjoyed them on vacations, and so I'm not opposed to short-term vacation rentals, but I am opposed to us approving vacation rentals without looking at the density of them in a neighborhood. More and more houses are going up for short-term vacation rental in St. Elmo, which means that there are more and more houses on a street that then become vacant for long periods of time. Maybe not on weekends, maybe not on holidays, maybe not in the summer, but they do become vacant. I myself live across from two short-term vacation rentals. One is an owner-occupied rental and one is a non-owner-occupied rental. And it feels nice to have a neighbor across the street with the owner-occupied one. It also has an impact economically on our neighborhoods when people, not necessarily this couple, but generally people, or now there are businesses buying up homes in our neighborhood and they're offering them up as short-term vacation rentals because there is money to be made in this. That then raises housing prices in our neighborhood. I'm a renter. I can't afford to buy in St. Elmo at this time, even though I have a pretty good job, right? And so I think that what we're advocating for mostly is that the council really start to consider what are the ways that you all are looking for the process of this, instead of just, are you following all the rules? Cool, we're giving it to you. How many houses on a street are doing vacation rentals? what's the density in that neighborhood, what's the impact it's having long-term on the economics of that neighborhood and the housing availability. We are losing our middle-income housing in Chattanooga at a pretty rapid and astonishing rate, and if we're losing it to give tourists a home when they have an opportunity to be in a hotel or a motel or something else, I think, or an owner-occupied short-term vacation rental, I think that those are avenues we can advocate for. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to ask these folks if they have anything they want to add. Anything? You're good? You're happy? Are you good? Yeah.
I'm Jeff Meldahl. I also live in St. Elmo. I just wanted to say, when you look at the numbers of vacation rentals, in terms of possible alternate models of distributing contracts for short-term vacation rentals, if we could look at how many applications a single applicant is putting in. If somebody's applying for 7 different applications, it's a good bet that's just a developer who is buying up property and making a short-term profit while not contributing anything to the neighborhood and sitting on the property as it appreciates. And that's just piling capital in the pockets of people who already have more than enough. And as a resident of a neighborhood where this is happening now, I'd much rather have neighbors than houses that are just being just appreciating while the developer waits to strike when the iron is hot or whatever their plan is. So if you can get us more neighbors and fewer short-term vacation rentals, we'll be delighted, I believe.
All right, thank you. Sangsteffer, do you have any other comments you'd like to have? You have up to 2 minutes if you would like to say something else.
So I just say personally that we're not developers and we're not taking over the neighborhood by any means. As far as living in our home, we drive by at least 5 to 6 times a week. We're well aware of what goes on at that property. Aaron can be there in 10 minutes. I can be there in 10 to 30 at the most. So it's well governed and maintained on our end. And it's not vacant for long periods at all. We're booked like 85% of the time. So there's always constant turnover and good guests. Impact on the neighborhood, I would say that our home benefits the neighborhood because of the restaurants, the businesses, and just our neighbors enjoy it. So that's all we have to say.
All right, thank you. Councilman Ledford, do you have a question?
I do, Mr. Chair, probably for the city attorney, but just if anyone has a concern or needs to reach the owner, is the number posted on site?
There is a requirement in the code that there be a rental agent, that be a local person here where they could get access to. I do not think there's a requirement in the code currently that it be posted on site. That rental agent is available on the application. If there's any question that occurs, then we can provide that information to them through the Land Development Office.
So it'd probably be up to the short-term vacation rental owner to provide their contact information to the adjacent property owners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that something you'd be willing to do? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. Councilman Oglesby.
Yes, to my neighbors and friends in St. Elmo, I've had a number of discussions about what you're talking about, and I've had some of those discussions with my council members also about looking into that. And I surely understand where you're coming from. At the same time, I stay right up the street from where this vacation rental is, and I know this area well, and I have all faith that they're going to do what they're supposed to do, but I do appreciate the fact that you bring in this concern to us about maintaining neighborhood integrity and not turning streets or even whole neighborhoods into sub-hotel conglomerates or what have you. But for the sake of this hearing right now, I move to approve.
See no further lights. We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, please.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00072 for property located at 801 South Scenic Highway.
All right, is the applicant present? Yes. Is there any opposition present? Yes. Yes. All right, the applicant, please come forward. You can have up to 7 minutes to state your case, and then opposition will have the same, and then you will have 2 minutes to rebuttal. Just give us your name, and please feel free.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. Thank you very much for hearing this petition. My name is John Murphy, and I'm the co-applicant with my wife, Sarah Murphy. We're the owners of 801 South Scenic Highway. In April of this year, my wife and I purchased 801 as a family investment with the goal of moving to Chattanooga after I graduate from the National School of Law. In May, we submitted required applications with the LDO, the Land Development Office, and in all the required paperwork and business licensure that is required to set up the short-term rental permit. At each step, the LDO is aware of our listing and was working with us to obtain the permit, and they received this mentioned opposition letter. Indeed, we would likely have the permit but for this opposition letter. We had good conversations with neighbors on the adjacent property and addressed any and all concerns that that gentleman had with the operation of the short-term rental property. And we've taken every opportunity to engage the neighbors on the south side of us and provided any and all remedies with immediacy and took appropriate and reasonable time to make any adjustments that they requested. We're responsible hosts and take that responsibility very seriously. We cap our guest counts, even though we have 3 bedrooms. We don't house all those bedrooms, and we limit it to 4 individuals, even though we could make more money if it was more. But we prioritize being a listing for families rather than a listing for larger groups that could create more traffic, more noise, or more issues for our neighbors. We believe in being good neighbors with everyone on our street and next to us. We have a screening process where we require previous reviews and recommendations from other hosts and from other hosts that provided like occupancy. If they don't have those, then we engage those individuals directly and to ascertain the nature of their visit. We've made ourselves accessible and available to our neighbors and demonstrated an eagerness to remedy any situations and concerns within that reasonable amount of time. We're not developers, we're not big business, we're a small family with 2 daughters, and we want to make connections in the Chattanooga community, and we pray that you move for approval of this permit.
All right, thank you, sir. And the opposition to this application?
Yes, thank you very much. My name's John Cameron. My wife, Kara, actually is more involved with the adjoining property that we own next to Mr. and Ms. Murphy, and will probably be able to elaborate more concisely what her concerns are. In fairness to Mr. Murphy, he's reached out to me and offered to meet with me at my office, but due to scheduling conflicts, I haven't been able to do that. So that was certainly appreciated that he extended that offer. Basically, our concerns, there's several. I guess, as I indicated to Mr. Murphy in an email, we got off on the wrong foot as neighbors because there was no communication about what was going on and what the anticipated planned use for this property was. Only after they actually started renting the property to third parties and an inquiry by my wife as to who these folks are, traveling across what is a joint easement. Our property shares a joint easement, and people were going in and out. We didn't know who it was or anything. And my wife, because we have cameras there, actually sometime in May or June, went over at 2:30 in the morning with the police because we didn't know what was going on. So I think we got off on the wrong foot by there being a lack of communication as to what the intent was and what was going to be going on with the property. Specifically, we have concerns about quite frankly, even though we have no control over rental rates that people are going to be using for short-term vacation rentals, this is a two-story dwelling with multiple bedrooms that can house or a number of people can occupy one sitting, and it rents for about $90-some-odd a night. From our perspective, that's a concern. It invites potentially people that you would not like to be occupying property next to you. It's basically a Super 8 rate. And when those people potentially are going to be in that property, and it's in very close proximity to ours, probably within the structures themselves are probably no more than 25 feet apart. Anyway, that gives us pause and concern. A number of people have traveled across this joint easement under a carport to access the Murphy home. As I said, we have security cameras, and the traffic is another concern of ours, the number of vehicles going in and out. There are actually two entrances across this easement, one actually on South Scenic Highway and the other up closer to our home on Sanders Road. So that's been an issue of contention from my perspective and my wife's perspective, the amount of traffic. And quite frankly, some of these things at some point need to be addressed directly with the adjoining property owners. But when, for example, my wife's trying to unload items out of our vehicle to take into our property, and a cleaning crew comes out and demands that she move the vehicle so they can get by instead of exiting out another exit. Those type of things have led us to the point that we feel like we have no, we feel like the opposition is justified. I'll let her, if you don't mind, I'll defer to my wife, Kira, to address any concerns that she may have, and thank you. I'm sorry, I used most of her time.
Okay, my name is Kara Cameron, and I'm the one that's in charge of mainly handling this. My husband's a little too busy to bother with it. But anyway, like you said, I've got some surveillance cameras under our carport. We share an easement with these other property owners, and this is the first time we've ever laid eyes on these people. They're from Nashville. They bought the house in April, and in June I noticed someone under our carport at about 2:30 in the morning and felt the need to go up and check on our property. And that's when we found out and learned that they had turned it into an Airbnb. And at the time, we were letting ours it was managed by Thor Christensen with Chattanooga Vacation Rentals. He had actually spoken to them when they were considering purchasing the property, and he understood that that was an investment. They didn't have any intentions of moving to Chattanooga. So we were 2 months later finding out that they had turned it into an Airbnb. So the traffic was an issue. The cleaning ladies had no idea when or where to put the garbage out, and so the raccoons were getting into the garbage and strowing it all across our property. Our houses are very close together. Then July 22nd, there were two individuals walking underneath our carport that I felt the need to call the police. They ultimately had burglarized the house down the street, had a weapon on them. They were ultimately caught. And I don't have a police report for that because one of these individuals was a juvenile, and it's not a closed case, so I couldn't get the police report for it. But they had stolen a gun down the street from another neighbor and walked under our carport and burglarized the vehicle of a woman who was renting the property from Mr. Murphy. And I don't know if he's aware of any of this. Like my husband said, we got up on the wrong foot. Finding out that your next door neighbors are running an Airbnb 2 months later is kind of a little bit unnerving when you share a driveway. So the next incident in September, I do have a police report for that. One of his guests, we think, attempted to enter our property by opening the lockbox. We've also noticed when no one was staying at our property, cigarette butts, as if someone was on our back porch smoking cigarettes. Their listing on Airbnb states that you can access their property by going down their path. What they don't realize is going down their path crosses across the back of our property. and they're telling these people to go hiking down through there. None of this was ever discussed with us. That's a concern. The main concern is, when we decided to do this, we didn't want to become a nuisance to our neighbors, and we went through the county commission and got approval. We went to all our neighbors and asked them, do you have any objection?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Ledford, I see your light. Do you like to wait for opposition, or do you have a question first? All right, thank you, sir. You're welcome to come back up and have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you very much, Council. In regards to the rate, when you are putting a rate on Airbnb, it only shows you the nightly fee. It doesn't show you the cleaning fee, as well as the convenience fee, as well as other associated fees that are attendant to the staying. So that $92 rate is actually more like $165, $180 a night, depending on the day of the week. So it's not a Super 8 fee structure. The issues that the opposition laid out, we have documented proof that we could submit to the record that we've reached out every single month, if not almost bi-weekly. Text messages, calls to offices, calls to cell phones, and if any of this were issues, I'm not sure why it wasn't raised in an appropriate manner so that we could take any sort of remedial measures. And you know, for the associated crime, I'm not sure that you could create a nexus between an individual walking by a carport that wasn't staying at the property and the property creating that amount of crime. I think these are very circumstantial that are in no way directly related to the permit, but that are by happenstance. So I again, pray for your approval of the permit, and with that, I'll yield it back.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Murphy, quick question for you, sir. These two properties share a driveway. I think that was answered a moment ago, but there's a shared common driveway?
There is a common driveway with two entrance and exits off of Sanders Road and off of South Scenic. So there's one off of Scenic and then one off of Sanders.
And how many parking spaces?
There's 2 parking spaces on the 801 property underneath a carport. With the adjoining property, there is one parking spot underneath the carport that is part of that shared easement. There's a pass-through, there's a driveway.
So your cleaning crew is
parking underneath our carport.
Underneath your carport, but it's blocking your neighbor?
I'm not sure how it could be, and the cleaning crew has never mentioned any altercations or any direct communication with regards to that.
Okay. I guess the root of my question was there adequate parking?
There is adequate.
That's one of the regulations that
yes,
we
sir.
have written.
Yeah, and I will also mention that we've had an inspector come out from the LDO, and they've gone through the whole property and they've looked at the site plan and they didn't raise any objections with the site plan.
Okay, so coming and going, egress and ingress to the property is along a common driveway with the neighbors?
One of the entrances is along a common driveway. There's 2, one off of Scenic that comes kind of down a driveway, and then the driveway cuts through both properties. It's almost like a U, almost like a bend,
okay,
if you will.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Oglesby.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the opposition, are you living in this place on Sanders? Okay, so, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you.
Beat me to it.
No, sir, it's another residence. It's a second residence.
Okay, who lives in it?
No one. We use it as a short-term vacation rental. However, we're not renting it out anymore. We're actually, because of the issue that has occurred with the easement between the properties, he cannot access his property without crossing either our property or the next neighbor over. There are two ways to access and egress his property, and he has to utilize a joint easement from us and a joint easement from the adjacent property on the other side. And their names are John Harris and Eve Oldham. And they would have been here if they could have, but he had another obligation. Anyway, it's the amount of traffic and the amount that they're renting the place for, $65 a night. And that's an amount of money that can attract the wrong kind of clientele. And we actually are probably going to do something different with our property because it's a nuisance. The traffic going underneath the carport.
Ms. Hangsteffer, I'm sorry to interrupt. You've had time to make this case. Councilman, you asked a specific question as to whether or not she's living in the house. Let's just answer the question as it was.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr. Chair. Okay, so you were renting it out. You were using it as a short-term vacation rental. Now you no longer are, and now you're planning on getting rid of it. Is that what I'm hearing?
We're considering that, and we would need to have it rezoned back to residential.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have that one documented police report you said you didn't have?
I actually have 3. I don't have the other 2 reports because they involved juveniles. I was told I couldn't get that report yet. It's not a closed case. But I do have this one. Our concern is that other people are trying to access our property because it's also a short-term vacation rental.
Okay, you mentioned other people.
They were guests. They were their guests.
And let me go. I'm trying to get to the rules. Were they your guests or not? Wait, well,
Yes, they were. I spoke to them. I needed to ask and find out why they needed to access my house.
okay.
And again, thank you for the question, Councilman. If this was a concern of a misidentification of a short-term property because there are 2 short-term properties on an adjoining property, then that could have been remedied with adequate communication.
Okay, the concern I have is we essentially have neighbors.
Yeah.
And this is something that when the decision is made, one way or the other, y'all gonna have to live together, at least until you make up your mind what you're gonna do with the property. I see no reason whatsoever to really deny this request. So, Mr. Chair, Council, I'm going to recommend that we approve the application for short-term vacation rental.
You good? All right, sir. I had a light, but it disappeared. So we've got a motion and a second for approval. Very good. I see no further lights, no other discussion. So in that case, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. I'm not hearing any nays. Let's move on.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00087 for property located at 128 West 17th Street.
All right, is the applicant present? Yes. Is there any opposition present? All right. Will the applicant please come up and... Same applies. You'll have 7 minutes. Just give us your name and please begin.
All right, so I'm Rush. This is my wife, Hannah. 128 West 17th Street is our primary residence. We rented out last year 23 days. This year we've only rented out 14 days. We rented out during events. This past weekend we rented out for Head of the Hooch. We rented out for Ironman, Riverbend, these types of events. It's very convenient for people that have large families to stay at our house. It has 4 bedrooms. It's rather sizable. People with pets, where getting hotels would be an inconvenience for them. I do agree with the people who opposed the first that short-term rentals can create issues. In our case, I don't believe that to be the case since it's such a low volume. We also rent at a rather high rate. What are we at right now? We're at $350 per night, so we're not attracting the wrong type of clientele. The house is 4 years old. It's in immaculate shape. We are very responsive to our renters. This past weekend, we were in Florida, and our upstairs our heater went out. This is at 10:30. We found out about it. We called the service company, that they're on-call person to go out there. They fixed the heat for our renters. So, I'm going to keep this one brief because I'm curious as to the issue that we're creating, and I'll leave it at that, and I'll respond to whatever those issues are.
All right. You good? Opposition have an opportunity?
Hi, I'm Charlotte Caldwell. We'd actually like to withdraw our opposition because of the fact that they are an owner-occupied short-term vacation rental. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Oglesby.
With that being said, Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the application.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. John, was that a no out there? All right. All right. Madam Clerk, let's move on to D.
A resolution approving short-term vacation rental application number 18 STVR 00103 for property located at 501 Tucker Street.
Is the applicant present? Yes. Is there any opposition present? There is some. Councilman Mitchell.
Mr. Chair,
Get your light.
conversation with
Jerry, get your light. Get your light so I can get you on the mic.
Had a conversation with, wow, Adrian. Had a conversation today with Mr. Ralston, and he is really just becoming aware of a new great neighborhood association that was formed in the neighborhood. He'd like to do this, and what I'd like to try to do is make a motion to defer for 2 weeks and let the parties get together and talk something over, and then in 2 weeks come back and have this hearing if there still is objections. And so I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Yes, sir. All right, before we move forward with that, would you like to hear from the applicant? I know you spoke to him. Would you like to hear from opposition before that, or just go ahead and move for the deferral?
I'd
sir?
really like for the two to get together and speak to each other and then hear from them.
Very good. We have a motion and a second for a 2-week deferral. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay.
November 20th.
November 20th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, E, please.
Excuse me. A resolution to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Amy Jenkins and the appointments of Joyce Jackson and Sylvia Ramos to the Chattanooga Department of Youth and Family Development Board.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's appointment of Jenny Simpkins and Holly Richardson to the Wastewater Regulations and Appeals Board.
All right, what's a pleasure? And I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Christopher P. King to the Beer and Record Board.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. H, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Ann Wilkins to the Carter Street Corporation.
Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. I, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointments of Rebecca Baker, Michael Dupree, and Damon Buxton as special police officers unarmed for the Chattanooga Area Regional Transportation Authority, Carter, to do special duties as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. That completes all the items we have on our agenda and takes us down to purchases. Ms. Woodard.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The first 9 items that we have for your consideration tonight are on behalf of the Public Works Department. The first being a blanket contract renewal for the grinding of wood, brush, and leaf material services to be awarded to Ultawa Cleaning and Grinding in an estimated annual amount of $360,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for high visibility work clothing to be awarded to Centos Corporation in an annual estimated amount of $40,000. Next, we have an increase to the blanket purchase order for wash and crushed stone, which is awarded to Vulcan Material Company, and the revised total estimated amount annually will be $650,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for Knoll Open Office Landscape Furniture, which will be awarded to CBI in an estimated annual amount of $250,000. Next, we have the blanket contract renewal for truck, trailer accessories, and trailer maintenance to be awarded to Truck and Trailers USA, an estimated annual amount of $75,000. Next, we have a new blanket contract for Satina Police Vehicle Equipment to be awarded to Lee Smith, Inc., an estimated annual amount of $100,000. Next, we have the purchase of Bobcat S650 skid steer loader to be awarded to Bobcat of Chattanooga in the amount of $54,096.08. Next, we have the increase to the blanket contract for CWS uniform, which is awarded to Centos Corporation, and the revised total estimated annual amount will be $50,000. Next, we have the blanket contract renewals of the purchase orders for fasteners, nuts, and bolts, which will be awarded to Atlas Bolt and Supply Company and Second Hayward Bolt and Specialty Company, Inc. And the total combined estimated annual amount will be $50,000. And finally, a blanket contract renewal for police leather gear awarded to GT Distributors in an estimated annual amount of $35,000. Next, on behalf of the fire department, we have the purchase of flashlights and chargers to be awarded to Dana Safety Supply in the amount of $32,931. Next, on behalf of the Department of Human Resources, we have the purchase of the Race Forward program, the Government Alliance on Race Equity, to be awarded to Race Forward in the amount of $88,000. And finally, on behalf of the mayor's office, we have our blanket contract renewal for newspaper and online advertising to be awarded to Chattanooga Times Free Press in an estimated annual amount of $150,000.
Councilman Gilbert.
I have 2 questions. One, on the Bobcat, that's for a new Bobcat or used?
I believe that it is new.
It's new?
Yes.
The other one, I had some serious problems last year on this particular contract. When we gave it to them last year, we assumed, I guess, that they had the equipment to do the contract, and when they first started, they didn't. They were using our equipment until I complained about it, and then they went and purchased or rented some other equipment. Then they also had a chipper, and I consider it a baby chipper compared to what we have for the city. And if we have a disaster, will they be able to keep up? Because they're not there all the time. They go out of town for about a week or so and then come back. So for us to give that much money to a company that didn't have the equipment in the first place, I have issues with that. So do you know if they got everything they have needed to do a disaster or anything of that nature, or close to a disaster? We had trees falling everywhere.
I'm sorry, Councilman, are you referring to the proposed purchase for
The the burning pit, the one with the chipping company we did last year?
Okay, I'm not aware when we were finalizing this that any performance issues were brought to our attention in formalizing this, but Public Works may have more.
Yeah, I did bring it up.
So to answer your question, Mr. Gilbert, there weren't any performance issues with the contractor. We did look into a number of concerns that were brought up, and none of those concerns were validated. The contractor's done an exceptional job, and hasn't had any performance issues.
So
Has the equipment to perform the work.
So you're telling me that when they first started, they did not use our equipment, and they had their own
They did not use our equipment.
at all,
That's correct, sir.
and they had their own when they first started?
That's correct, sir.
And the chipper that they're using could handle what we potentially could happen inside the city?
Yes, sir. It's a very comparable chipper in size. It's actually a similar make. I think it's the exact same brand of chipper that we have. It's a very similar size chipper, and they have the appropriate equipment to manage the facility and all the material that comes in. In the case of an emergency like the tornadoes that we had in 2011, we employed probably 4 additional contractors, I believe, under some idea that, and actually we were reimbursed by FEMA for some of those that additional work. So in a declared disaster, that may, you know, we would try to manage that in a different way and use existing contracts.
Yeah, I remember that. That's when we hired some people out of town, and about $2 million, and we had to clean up behind them when they left. I remember that one, because me and Lee had a debate about that too. Chair, can we separate this one? Because I definitely don't want to vote for it.
We're more than happy to accept that as a motion, sir. All right. We're going to, and actually, I'm just going to do this unless the council has opposition to it. We're just going to separate this item out. Anybody? All right. We will pull this item out and deal with it separate. Councilman, are you good right now with that?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. Justin, are you still nearby? I just had a quick question on the Public Works item 177111. The Satina police vehicle equipment. I'll give you a second to.
Yes, sir.
Okay. They sell items that equip police cars and things. Is that, I'm just wondering why that, is that for police cars or is that for other public works vehicles or?
Yeah, it says it's specifically for police, for equipment that is installed in a police car.
Gotcha.
So there is listed here specifically, it looks like it's police or prisoner barriers.
Okay.
So it's listed as a cargo barrier, a prisoner partition, a single AR mount, and a steel rear window armor. So it looks like it's specific to police equipment.
Okay, that was my question. And these items are only sold through dealerships?
Yes, sir. I'm assuming that
Okay.
we can look through the bid packet if you're.
I was just curious because I did go on their website and I didn't see them listed in their official website to buy from, so I just wanted to verify that before I cast my vote.
It looks like there were five bidders.
Okay.
You good, Councilman?
I'm good. I'm good,
All right.
Chairman. Thank you.
Councilman Gilbert, do you have another question?
Yeah, quick question. On the equipment, they did not use our bulldozers, correct? For this pit, to move stuff around.
So to my knowledge, there was, and from what I recall, we investigated a number of complaints about that, and we did not find that the contractor used any of our equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I see no more lights. I have one point to clarify. Councilman Gilbert, would you make sure to clarify for us by PO number the item that you would like pulled out and dealt with separately?
Yes, that'll be the first one will be PO 546737.
Very good. All right, let's deal with that item first. We are dealing only with a single purchase, PO 546737. Councilman Henderson.
Move for approval of PO 546737.
All right, I have a motion for approval. And that motion is going to die for a lack of a second. We now will take care of the rest of the purchase items for this evening. Do I have a motion on those?
Move for approval.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. So at this time, we'll move on to other business. Anybody on the, oh, excuse me, Councilwoman Burrs.
So we didn't define how or when we're going to address this issue that we removed.
That would be correct, but that is up for the administration to either no longer submit that for approval or to bring it back to the council at a later time.
So are you going to leave
Ms.
it
Woodard, do
hanging
you
or
wanna-
what?
From a procedural perspective, we have processed the transaction as adequately as we can. I'm not sure that, at least from my perspective, that I am able to recognize what's needed from purchasings.
I think that was my point. Councilman Gilbert brings up a good point. What is it you want them to come back and bring to you?
Councilman, is this something you're interested in discussing further with purchasing?
Not at the moment.
All right. Well, then I will trust you to get back with them as soon as you can. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
May I
Yes, Ms.
just
Woodard?
remind this body that the ongoing service that this vendor provides will expire in December. So to my knowledge, it is an ongoing need, so that should be a consideration.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anybody on the council that has other business they'd like to discuss? Anybody? All right, seeing no lights, it takes us to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs. Hit the light. There you go. Go for it.
Yeah? Okay. We began the budget process last Friday, and we met with all the folks that are looking to submit BFOs. There was a large public meeting, and I hope, and this is for public consumption. So please, if you're getting this on camera, please do that. We have scheduled hearings or meetings throughout the city for folks to show up and get involved in the BFO process. They're happening across the city. One is at the Family Justice Center. I forget where the other two are, but we've had complaints that people could not be involved. Mara, can you, if you would? Thank you. So last year, in response to concerns from community members who said they didn't have the opportunity to be involved, there's plenty of time to sit on committees, to be involved in basic input, and this is all public record, and it's out on the website as well. So here we go again. We're starting, and the BFOs will be coming in. The first submission deadline is December 10th. Yeah, see, I really was there. December 10th. And we're beginning the process, which we will finally hear beginning in May. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman. Great reminder. Councilman Byrd. Councilman Gilbert. Councilman Henderson. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Planning and Zoning Committee meeting did meet today. We covered all items on our agenda, including discussion on floodplains and steep would like to remind everyone that November 13th, we will have an update from RPA on policies and procedures and ideas, further up on the public hearing that we had regarding flood, steep slopes, and floodplain development needs there.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting next week following agenda session.
All right, thank you, sir. And Councilman Oglesby.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right. That takes us to the point in our agenda of recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda matters. Is there anybody in the council this evening? Yes? Mr. Attorney, would you please read the rules?
Yes, sir. Anyone that wants to speak to the council this evening has to come up to the microphone. That's where it's allowed here. Address the council upon any quasi-judicial or legislative matters that are within their authority. You got to limit your remarks to 5 minutes at a time. Can't use vulgar or obscene language. Don't personally attack or personally denigrate others. And make sure that all remarks are directed to the entire city council here. That's the body you're speaking to. They can't recognize any person or association more than 2 times in a 30-day time period. The only folks on our list at this point in time are Mr. Harris, who has spoken on October 16th and 23rd, and Mr. Dahl, who spoke on October 16th and 30th. And ma'am, please go ahead.
Yes, I am Dr. Belinda Moore, and I am a court reporter as well. And I had an issue about a year ago, and I called the city attorney's office regarding a noise, and I think I spoke with you, attorney. Now, but I think we worked together a number of times.
Yes, ma'am.
Depositions and hearings and things. But what has happened regarding that noise, it was not a noise pertaining to like a city code noise violation, like for instance, a boom box or anything like that, people going by with noise. But this was a noise, it's ultrasonic in nature. My house has been targeted by a developer by the name of, well, I won't call, I'll say it this way, you just said don't do that. But the developers have targeted my home. I've been getting these kind of real estate developers in the Orchard Knob district, and urgent, we want your home, urgent, you know, and this has been going on for 2 years now. A year ago, 2 years ago actually, I came home from court and my house had a noise in it at that time. There was a transformer put up. No one told me. There were no notices on the doors, no hangers, but my house, I said, what is this noise in my bedroom? I walked down the hall, but the noise was nothing but electricity. The electricity, it had blown the meter, but it took me 5 months to figure out what had happened. I spent over $4,000 now trying to get the origin of it. But EPB had, my refrigerator motherboard was blown up, and my motherboard and my furnace was blown up. And as a result of that, now I've had, over the last 2 years, 4 inner ear infections and have one currently. Because of this ultrasonic noise. The noise intensifies between the hours of 11 and 7 when you need to be asleep. So you know, well, and I had spoken with someone at the city and they told me too, you know, that to look on the internet. They came over because it was really a big thing. I've spoken to OSHA today. I've spoken to OSHA, the Department of Energy, of Conservation and Energy. I've spoken to the Environmental Protection Agency in Atlanta, Georgia. They keep shifting me back to Chattanooga. And so I have done that circle twice, so that's why I'm here tonight. It is an environmentally hazardous condition that exists with regard to the electricity right now in the neighborhood. I'm in the 1800 block of the Orchard Knob Reservation, and I know they want that. I see the mega buses too through my security cameras coming over the hill, you know, explaining the nature of the reservation. Well, I've lived in that area about 80 years. My family's been kind of in that area 80 years. And as a result of that, my house is literally uninhabitable. And I know these transformers emit radiation. And so my house is literally, I've had to go to a hotel at times, not understanding, but now listening today, at what has happened, you know, with the permits, I understand why they want it. It's gorgeous. I've lived in it 20 years and would like to keep it. And if I decide to apply for something and rent it out, that would be okay. But I only have a minute left. But the ramifications of the health problems that are associated with this EMF, electromagnetic forces, and it happens between the hours of 11 and 7, and it only crescendos. And I have video where I have a guy putting up a line from the corner to the middle, and there's this huge disc that they put up in the air, and my neighbor and I walked out, and we looked up like, what in the world is that? Because we wanted to discuss it too. But then the noise is continuum. It's a continuum. It's not ever ceasing, and it only crescendos when you need to be asleep. And as I say, the surge, the power surge surges through the power lines, transmission lines so horrifically that you can never sleep. So 2 years now, and then with the damages, my ear, and this side of my jaw, and it's gotten on down into here, about right here now. I think it may end up, in my other thyroid gland, but I'm trying my best. That's why I'm here, because my health is at risk now. I've tried to not come here. There's no way I would have come here, because I work in the judicial system for about 38 years now. And I've worked with every company, but my thing is, the EMF is killing us. And I watched a lady die. Her intestinal tract imploded, and I thank you so much for your time.
Ms. Moore, that was a tremendous amount of information with details to absorb. Have you had a chance to meet with your council person yet and discuss this? And obviously, it sounds like this is probably more than just a 5-minute conversation.
Yes.
Would you please do that, and we'll make sure that he or she follows up and
I will
see if there is anything we might be able to do. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Is this on? Can you hear me? All right. My name is Marie Mott. Andy Blount, 1893. Charles Williams, 1895. Charles Brown, 1897. Edward Johnson, 1906. A couple of weeks ago, it's mighty funny how we can't name council members, but they can name us directly. Council person decided that they would take comments not only out of context, but take what happened in a private meeting and make it public. The statements that I made to the Chattanooga police chief were intentional and true, that I would not, as a Christian, as a woman that was raised not only by my father, who is a military service veteran, both of my grandfathers, which are military service veterans, my great uncle who integrated the Chattanooga Police Department. You may not know who I am, but I have family history in this city. I was raised with decency and respect for law enforcement and military service veterans. The statement that I made is one of a Christian perspective, that I will not watch brothers and sisters, civilians, be brutalized or murdered by the Chattanooga Police Department. And I think it's quite insidious that anybody would make statements like that about me. When I'm a lover, I hug, I don't have any qualms with anybody, with the exception of people who abuse power. And that has been the only thing that I brought to the attention of this body, is that police officers in this city, and that it is a history in the city of Chattanooga, for Christ's sake. Walnut Street Bridge, I believe Edward Johnson looked at a white mob that illegally broke him out of jail in 1906 and brutalized him and shot him, and with little life that was clinging to his beautiful black body, with a noose around his neck, he said, "God bless them, for I am an innocent man." I know my history. I know where I come from. I fully support my people, and I would never watch. I could not live with the reality of looking at a situation where anybody is innocently murdered, whether at the hands of another civilian or at the hands of the Chattanooga Police Department. And I fully understand why someone like this particular counselor would be threatened when right now we are struggling with power in this country. And even on Sunday, as a news reporter, I was covering the Make America Great Again rally. And for Christ's sake, our police officers were standing in the line wearing Blue Lives Matter hats. I didn't even believe that our police officers could take a position like that on duty with Blue Lives Matter hats. And then I raised the issue to Glenn Scruggs, who shrugged me and several other people off. And I have this recorded on video, as well as all of the officers, because it was more than one who participated in this, which is quite partisan, if you ask me. If you wouldn't allow your police officers to wear a Make America Great Again hat on duty, I don't see why you would allow them to wear Blue Lives Matters hats on duty as well. I fully understand making the statements that I made to white men. I do understand that it is a threatening statement to come out of a black body. I do understand that telling someone who has a position of power, who has 3 clips, 1 gun, 1 taser, who has the ability to lock me up at any whim that they choose. I understand the threatening statements, because nobody is ever willing to look in the face of power and say that enough is enough. And unfortunately, I found myself standing before this body petitioning you guys to get involved. And not only do people not speak to me, not only do people who were in the meeting never shake my hand and talk to me, but these same individuals will look at me and say that I'm being emotional. No, I'm not. I'm quite conscious, and I'm quite clear and quite intentional in standing up for the civilians in my neighborhood and all throughout this city. And one day, we're going to have to give an account to God for not only what we see, but the choices that we make. And a time is coming in this country where we're going to have to choose. We're going to have to choose to serve the people, or we're going to choose to continue to serve the status quo. And that is a firm choice that I choose the people. And I choose the people absolutely every time. And I would petition this body once again to get your head out of the sand and to really deal with the Chattanooga Police Department before we have another instance of an individual raped, beaten, or shot in the back.
Please, sir.
Thank you. Jeff Meldal from 109 Ox Highway in St. Elmo. I think, to go back to the issue we were addressing earlier, I mean, I know we're not supposed to address...
And you're not.
Agenda matters. But in general, the issue of short-term vacation rentals, that was illustrative of the problem, which is that there's a complete absence of community between these two neighbors. There's, you have somebody arguing essentially that they're being undercut price-wise by their neighbor who's also trying to get into the short-term vacation market. And Councilman Oglesby correctly opined that they should talk it out amongst themselves, but the fact is that they're not actually neighbors, and they have...
Okay, sir, let me stop you. If you want to comment on short-term vacation rentals and city policy, please do, but do not discuss the item that was dealt with in agenda session.
Forgive me. It brought back to my mind the fact that we don't have the necessary checks on this basic free-for-all in the Airbnb market, and I know that I believe there's a review period coming up to term where STVRs are going to be looked at again. Maybe one of you could tell me when exactly that meeting will be, because I know a lot of citizens have concerns about having seen now the way that the system is going with STVRs as we have it now. Now that we are acquainted with it in person, I think a lot of concerns have come up. Many neighbors in our neighborhood have concerns. They want to restructure the system in such a way that we don't end up losing the potential for long-term neighbors, whether they be long-term tenants or homeowner neighbors, to the admittedly great profits that can be made from short-term vacation rentals. And I'll give Sarah the last couple minutes.
I think it's important that we know, or that y'all know, that we're not coming from a place of not in my backyard. We're coming from a place of concern where we believe that short-term vacation rentals can coincide with neighborhoods. We can coexist together, and we can create a fabric of a neighborhood that is strong as long as there are checks and balances in place for the numbers of those vacation rentals, the distribution of those vacation rentals. And I would say the ratio of those vacation rentals that are non-owner occupied versus owner-occupied vacation rentals. I know that it may seem premature that we are bringing this to your attention because this is a relatively new phenomenon in our city. However, I would invite you to look at other neighboring cities like Atlanta and Asheville and Knoxville and Nashville who are having these same conversations right now and who are further along on the process and have realized some pretty traumatic, I'm gonna use that word, pretty traumatic consequences of having not looked at this issue a little bit earlier. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your concern. And I look forward to moving forward with all of you in this process to make sure that our city is welcoming to others while also be welcoming to our own citizens and residents. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else here this evening who would like to address the council? We are adjourned.